My question is for the Premier. Last Wednesday, the Canadian Press reported that despite the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation receiving a report in September of 2016 about cleanup of the mercury contamination in the English Wabigoon River upstream from the Grassy Narrows First Nations, the Premier had the audacity to say she never saw the report. No. Speaker, the report in its entirety can be found with a simple 2-minute Google search. This is an issue which the government has had more than a decade to address. Is the Premier really saying that there is an entire year of inaction on this issue because her office couldn't perform a simple Google search?
Thank you. Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know the Minister of Indigenous Relations will want to speak to this, but I just need to reinforce what I said in the previous answer, Mr. Speaker. What happened at Grassy Narrows and the mercury poisoning in the water, Mr. Speaker, that we all know is a hugely problematic thing for the community surrounding that area, Mr. Speaker. That, should have not have happened in the first place. And then decade after decade, Mr. Speaker, there was no action taken. And part of the reason for that was that it wasn't clear exactly what the science was to get that mercury cleaned up. We know now, Mr. Speaker, what has to be done. We have set aside $85 million. That $85 million, Mr. Speaker, is already working. There are scientists there, Mr. Speaker, who are getting ready to put the infrastructure and the mechanisms in place to get that water cleaned up, Mr. Speaker. There's more that needs to be done. We understand that. That's why we have set aside that money. We are the government that is taking action on cleaning up what should never have happened in the first place, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Speaker, this is an issue about competency and trust. This report, and I'm going back to the Premier with this report, yes, is the foundation of an $85 million cleanup fund, an important part of reconciliation with the Grassy Narrows and BC Hmong First Nation. Yet the Premier admits she knew nothing about this plan just last week. So this is very unsettling, Speaker. We would expect a Premier to have command of all of her files. Who is to blame for this incompetency, and what is going to happen? Is it the Premier's office or the Minister? Who's going to be fired over this inaction?
Thank you.
Climate change.
Minister of the Environment, Climate Change.
Well, thank you, Speaker. And it's an opportunity for me to talk about some of the things that are happening in Grassy Narrows. Like my predecessor and the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, and indeed the Premier, our priority has been Grassy Narrows. It was the first community I visited when I became Minister of Environment and Climate Change. We've been working, Speaker, with that community and Wabsamong White Dog Indigenous community for many years to identify mercury, to put the right science in place so that we can begin the remediation, the mercury remediation of the Wabigoon English River system. So, last, we've got the dedicated $85 million fund. We've already put in place $5.2 million. We have drills on site testing right now.
Thank you.